What is up? It is Sam, and today I have an awesome video for you where we're going to go through the research I just finished on the YouTube channel for each one of these candidates that are running for the Democratic nomination for president. Then we're going to take a look at the performance in the last debate. We're not going to really actually use the word performance. We're going to look at some of the data from the last debate in terms of the minutes talked during the debate. And then finally, we're going to get into the comment section. We're going to talk about some of your comments. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam. And for those of you that are returning, it's good to freaking see you. You had better be pressing that thumbs up button. So what do we have here? We have Social Blade. Social Blade aggregates all the YouTube channels data. So the statistics associated with a YouTube channel that are publicly available are aggregated on Social Blade, and they do this for not only YouTube but other social media as well. So we come down here, and what I did is I got four things here. The first thing I started with was total subscribers, and this is not in terms of weighting. I just pulled it off the page this way, and we're going to talk about how this actually goes into the weighting. And first of all, let's take a pause here for a second. Why are we actually doing these YouTube rankings? Because I think we need to ground this in where we currently are, where you have a poll that's 1,000 people on this poll, or 1,500 people who take this poll, and then the media actually reports on that, which is understandable because that's what they've been fucking doing for decades, but it's 2019, and there's a better way to understand what people are actually interested in. So that is what we're doing here with these rankings. So it started with the subscribers, just the sheer number of subscribers, then the growth rate in the subscribers over a 2-week period. Then we moved on to the total number of views over the last 30 days. So for Andrew Yang, he's got 2.1 million and change. And then the growth rate in views over this past 13 or 14 days here. And I did this for each candidate, and I stacked ranked each candidate 1 through 11 in each one of those 4 categories. Subscribers, subscriber growth, views, viewer growth. Every single one of those I had a ranking, and then I took an average of those to come up with the overall YouTube ranking. And I put all that together in a spreadsheet and came up with this. So, super interesting. The top 5 are Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pete Buttigieg are tied for second place. Interesting. We're going to talk about that in a second. Bernie Sanders, our good friend Bernie Sanders, what is up? He's dropped again. We're going to get into the data on that, but he's dropped again. So we got to figure out what's going on with Burn. And then Elizabeth Warren, rounds out the top 5. Other noticeable mentions, I guess we could say Joe Biden's kind of like exactly where we would expect him in 6th to 7th. He moved up a spot. Let's actually just zoom in a little bit on this data. So let me make sure you guys can see this okay. Okay, there we go. So what we have here, well, first of all, let's look at the data and then look at the ranking and the trend. So we have, we'll start at the score. So how I did with the score was I take the average of those 4 factors, but we don't take a simple average, which would just be adding up each one of their individual placing in each one of those categories and then taking an average of that. We did a weighted average because each one of these variables presents different information. Some of it is more valuable than others. For example, is the growth rate in subscribers more valuable data point than the total number of views over the last 30 days? You could go from 2,000 subscribers to 4,000 subscribers, and your subscriber growth is 100% or 200%, but your views could be 30,000, right? So like these all matter, and how I broke it down was the growth rates represent 12.5% of the total average for this ranking. The next is the total number of subscribers over the last 30 days. That has a 30% 8% weight in the total. But the most important to me is like where people are actually spending their time. So that is why views over the last 30 days has 45% of the total in this breakdown for the score. So we have that score that's over here, and then I just get the ranking. But what's kind of interesting here is Andrew Yang and Bernie Sanders are the only two people who have over 2 million in terms of views. So I think this spot here could be kind of, I think this portion, which is this, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, I think there's one portion where it's just like I could see it kind of going either way. You know what I mean? For Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders. So let me just show you the numbers really quickly. So we've got Bern right here and Ms. Gabbard right here. So if we look, right, we're just going to look at subscribers over the first 30 days. So the first, she was ranked third, he was ranked second, but you see the magnitude of the difference. He had 11,000 subscribers, she had 3,500. Still, like, in terms of the placing, but the magnitude is not captured in the placing. So let's come over to the growth rates. She's growing substantially faster than he is here, so she ranked third here. In terms of views, she has 750,000 roughly in terms of views, and he's got 2.1 million through, so 3 times as much. But her viewer growth is substantially higher, but he's also got more views. So this is why we try to come up with different understanding of what data, what value is captured in what data, to try to come up with the most representative score to get the whole entire ranking. You know what I mean? So that is, I'm just trying to understand what America thinks here. Let's come over here, sorry about that tangent, to the data. We have somebody who's just on a freaking roll, and that's Pete Buttigieg. He went from 8th in September up to 2nd, tied for 2nd. That's good. He's like literally halved it each time. If he does another halving, he's going to be number 1. I don't know if this momentum for him could continue, but it looks like it has been for 2 months straight. So something could be building there. That's interesting. Andrew Yang also improved. So he had dropped to 2nd place in October. There was a lot of attention around other candidates, and apparently it was just enough to push him back, but he's regained his spot at number 1. So nice job, sir. Let's see if we notice anything else. Bernie Sanders. Oh man, look at this. So on September 5th, when we first did this ranking, Bernie ranked at number 2. And then he dropped to number 3 towards the middle, second half of September. And then in the middle of October, he dropped to 7th. Oops, I'm sorry. He was still at 3rd. That was Joe Biden I was looking at, which we're going to get into in a second. But he stayed at 3rd, and now he dropped to 4th. So do we have something interesting happening here? Like, is people's sentiment shifting? Is there enough awareness around some of these other candidates like Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard and Pete, whatever Pete's message is, and just different ways of thinking about things that I think that the American public wants? At least that's the appearance, right? We have Yang, Gabbard, and Buttigieg as the top 3 here. Like, that's what this data is telling us. We can try to understand why, but that's just what it is. And so if we come over here to Joe Biden like had a big, I would bet any of you guys who are more aware of what was happening, but I bet this would probably coincide closely with when he had that stuff with his son and other stuff with Joe Biden, all that shit that was going on in the Ukraine. So I bet it happened before 10/29, because he tanked. He went from 2nd to 7th. And then he moved up one spot, from last month to this month, but still, he's at 6th. He's not even in the top 5. Elizabeth Warren moved up a spot, but she's been kind of around that spot the whole time. Tulsi Gabbard, she went from number 1 to number 2. And she traded spots with Andrew Yang. But if we look at this data here, right? So what I'm doing is just trying to understand the magnitude of difference between them. So when I'm looking at the data, I put it all in here, and the video that I put out might be 10 minutes or 20 minutes long, but I try to put a little bit more thought in terms of like understanding what is actually happening. And that's why I put so much time in terms of explaining how I actually do the scoring on here, because I want you to understand that I'm really trying to get the most accurate representation of what is happening. Like, I don't care who it is. I just want to understand what the collective of America is thinking. So that's why I brought that up and harped on it for so freaking long. But if we look at the numbers between Yang and Gabbard, there's a pretty big difference, right? So if we start at subscribers, 4x in terms of 4x more for Yang versus Gabbard. And Pete, right? Pete's also tied with Tulsi. And so we should have highlighted him, but he's right above Andrew Yang. So again, even less than Gabbard. Then we have the growth rates. So the growth rate for Pete Buttigieg is much higher, which means that he has a smaller channel, right? If you look at this relative to Gabbard, she had more followers gained, but her growth rate is less. That just means she has a larger base to work off of, which helped him out. And Andrew, I believe that he was actually 3rd out of these 3 people. But when you come over to views, there's a big difference in terms of views, which is like actual people's attention. 2.1 million versus 550 for Pete and 750 for Gabbard. That's a pretty big difference, and I think it's been holding steady at around there. So it would take a lot of interest to really see some, like, you know what I mean, like 3 times greater than Gabbard and almost 4 times greater than Pete in terms of the total amount of awareness that's like fucking paying attention to Yang. But like Bernie Sanders, like, I'm not leaving him out too. Like, he's got a shell out. He just was ranked 4th because his growth rate is less. His growth rate's much smaller, and that impacted the score. That's why he was ranked there. Anyways, let's jump over to the debate. So what we have here, which is kind of interesting, I've just pulled up the Wikipedia page, and this is the debate from November 20th, right? Today's the 26th. And we're going to look at the total amount of minutes that each candidate talked, right? And we're just going to take a look at our scoreboard. So this is what they have. Joe Biden, he fucking talked a lot. Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker. Cory Booker, what's good, brother? You have not been ranking very well, and you had the 3rd most amount of minutes talked. Good job, buddy. Sanders, Harris, Buttigieg, Castro. We're going to get to Yang in a second. Klobuchar, O'Rourke. Wait, so this is the fucking right debate? I think I zoomed in on the wrong fucking debate. Because O'Rourke is not... So this is November 20th. Okay, here it is. I apologize. Warren had the most amount of time. There we go. I'm done. No more scrolling in. Warren had the most amount of time. Yang had the least amount of talk time. What is our thing? Warren actually came in at number 5, and Andrew Yang came in at number 1. So we can clearly see that there's those minutes that Yang talked were way more impactful in terms of people actually being interested or stimulating some type of awareness that caused people enough of a pull to like actually go in and look for something. I'd like to know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. And if you use the hashtag Stolt, what I can do is get into my YouTube analytics, and then see up here, I can search for hashtag Stolt and pull up your question and answer it at the end of the next video. So leave the hashtag Stolt in your comments so that I can find it out of all the comments. So the first comment here is from Dale Stedman. What's good, Dale? Sounds like a good plan, Stolt. So he is referencing that I quit my job. Yes, that is right. I quit my job. My last day is December 13th. I am very stoked. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to put out plenty of content around it. If you want us to check the channel out, press the subscribe button, follow along with my journey. Traveling is actually going to be a lot cheaper than staying located in Massachusetts. So there's lots of good stuff coming up. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, Dale, for the comment. The next comment is from Robert Covarrubias. What's good? I butchered your name and I apologize. Thank you for the comment. Excellent analysis, Stolt. You are right. And concerning Tulsi Gabbard, she will gaining ground. She will gaining ground. She getting attention. She will definitely gain. Besides, she extremely intelligent. She knows how operate real data to her advantage. Appreciate the comment and thoughts. She did rank very well. Let's see how many minutes she actually had. She had like the third least amount of minutes talked at 9.2 minutes, but she ranked number 2 in terms of scoring here. So that's kind of interesting. I will be the power rankings are going to be coming out next, which is where we take the one ranking we just did along with 7 other factors, which the Google search volume, the YouTube search volume, the Twitter ranking, the Facebook ranking, the donations ranking, the website ranking. And we take all of those together, and then we take an average, right, to try to really get the most amount of data to understand what's happening. And that video is coming up later, so make sure you press that subscribe button. Next, again, this is from Robert. What's good? 2 comments. I feel special, bro. Thank you. So excellent analysis of what going with crooks. What? I'm sorry. Let me start this over. Excellent. Stolt. Excellent analysis of what going with the crooks MSNBC. He is referencing the boycott trending second on Twitter the other day, and just some data that's out there. Like, I'm not putting like anything together. I'm just showing you the data, and you can decide if it's discriminating or if it's just like a bias. Like, if there's a psychological bias for it that I talk about in that video. It's called the establishment bias, where that's just, you can Google it if you want to, or watch that video. Anyways, I thank you for that. I just try to understand, and that's kind of why we do these. I want to use the data to understand what the collective of America is thinking. And I think that trying to at least have that conversation around, this is 2019, and using the old ways of doing things may not be the most intelligent way to do things going forward. And we should at least have that conversation, right? If you agree, share this fucking video with somebody. It helps out the channel a lot. And I appreciate it. Also, if you know anybody who's got a podcast, who's got a YouTube channel, hit me up. I want to be on their fucking YouTube channel and provide some real data and analysis for them. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.